Morning, everyone. So, as with the other videos, we're going to move on to the enforcers now. I didn't get my game yesterday. I couldn't find anybody to play. Hopefully, I get a game tomorrow, um, which will hopefully be a big step in actually learning something about this damn guy because, reading cards is well and good, and, it's nice to be like, oh, this model looks like it'd be good, but until you get it on the field, like I can't even think about how I would complete different strategies very well because I don't even know how to position my models yet. So it's a process. It's actually a fun process, in my opinion, learning new masters and stuff. And actually reading all these Neverborn cards kind of puts in it's weirdly will help my Gremlin game because some models that seem scarier than they are because maybe you play them in a game and they like did some weird trick to you and like crushed you, and then you go back and you read the card and you're like, oh, that's really all they had, and I could have played around it and whatnot. So anyway, like especially like one thing is like I think compared to Gremlin cards at least is I feel like Nevermore cards have a lot of freaking things on them, especially like random like small things have like big triggers on the back that end up doing like nothing. Nonetheless, we're doing enforcers. There are a ton of enforcers in uh Neverborn. I don't even know if I have all of them in front of me because I don't have every card, though I did just go out and buy a bunch of models yesterday. Let's go pull my finger again because this helps me. All right, Neverborn. Yeah, there's not that many. I don't have a Teddy card. I'm not gonna play Teddy in Collodi. I don't think Teddy's a good model. Period. Um, Scion of Black Blood. Don't actually know what that does. Don't care. All right, I think I'm looking through this. I have all the other cards. All right, so I'm going to go through a list of cards I'm not going to consider. I'm not going to take too long to talk about them because I just don't think they meet what I want in Collodi. And maybe later they will, but I have Killjoy card for some reason. He's not coming in. Mr. Tannen, Mr. Graves, neither one. They're both like cool, but I don't know. I don't think I need to show you the door, and the rest of the Mr. Graves card doesn't really mesh with what I'm doing with Collodi. At least I believe so. Tuco sucks. Mature Nephilim. I actually read this guy's card um, and compared him to Nakima because I've never seen Mature Nephilim on there. And I was like, why would people take him over Nakima? And just real quickly, I like that he has +1 armor. I like that he's terrifying because I've said before why I like terrifying and Nakima isn't. He is not melee expert, so only has 2 attacks. He does have flurry, which is kind of sweet. He has a longer charge range than Makima. He's 1 inch more threat. Um, Same damage track, but lower melee, but gets plus flips. Um, Probably the best thing about Mature Nephilim, if I had to say, is that he can take the ignore armor. And having min 4 ignore armor is pretty nice. I think that upgrade is probably going to be pretty important in general. Lilu, even with his upgrade, I actually have not read his card. He looks like he's crap. He doesn't. What is this? Yeah, I don't. He doesn't. Whatever. I'm not using him. Coppelius. He needs a lot of setup. He like really needs. I think he's like good with obviously Dreamer when you summon him, and I actually do like some of his stuff. I just think that he's not worth spending 8 on for Collodi. What's it do? Baby Cade. There are 3 models in Neverborn that have lures. Baby Cade, Lilitu, and Beckoner. They're all 7 stones. They all have different values. His is the weakest lure. And without a Teddy and stuff, I just don't see this guy being useful. 7 defense, 6 wounds is kind of like too close to being easily killed. So he's not going to make it. So those 3 or 6 or whatever aren't going to make it into the first round, I'll say, of playing. So I've picked 6 models that interest me, and maybe not all of them are first round material, but we're going to go over these enforcers. So Lilitu, she has the strongest lure at 7, and she has a 4-inch engage that can kind of be nice for tying people up. Black blood regen. She's 6'6" with 7 wounds, which is pretty nice. Just a 7-point lure, really. I mean, she's like a bell that's 2 stones more, but better defenses. Black blood's interesting regen. Like I said, her melee attack is not great. Wait, this attack receives plus damage. It can models less than half their wounds, which is not that big a deal. A lot of willpower duels or become paralyzed. I mean, you really take her for the lure, if anything, because she has the strongest lure. It's the same as a bell now. And you do take some models that potentially have pounce when we go over minions. We'll talk about that. But it's one of the. I don't know if you need her, because when we get to the minions, like a lot of the Fey ones have like a similar type lure. Not 18 inches, obviously. It's not that far, but it's not bad in Headhunter. I've had it used against me, and it was pretty good. But the fact that she's not a minion, like I don't know if she's strong enough to justify the non-minion slot. But she's an interesting one if you want to lure. Beckoners have lure, and we will talk about them. But she has the same stones, and they don't really do anything else. But we'll see. All right. So she was probably the least one. So Hooded Rider, I think, is like one of the cooler ones. It's like I want him to be good. I haven't played against him a lot. All riders are interesting because they take some time to get going. But okay, so Hooded is 5'6". They're all stubborn, 6 walk, 10 charge. Right? He has a 13. Here's the thing with the riders; they're 13-inch like threat range. That's like amazingly huge. And maybe he'll be good with New Rider or something. But just like having a 13, like his threat range is amazing when like turns 3 when he pushed 6 inches and then charged 13 unimpeded. That's 19 inches he can get across the board. He does 2, 3, 5 with a trigger on mass for plus. So turn 2 he does 3, turn 4 he does 4. So he becomes like Nakima's damage track later on. He's less melee, of course, but the one thing I think is cool is as he can take Shred's Eye. I mean, that's really the one thing that makes him nice, in my opinion, is he gets to the point where he starts to really like whereas Arcanist, he starts to like tear through Gammons and stuff like that, or other riders turn off their triggers. Like he has the potential to just go in and like fuck people up. Of course, he only has 2 AP to attack with, so there is something to be said there. I just think I'm thinking about some of the stuff, and ignoring armor is probably going to be pretty important at some point. And I don't know. I like the idea, and I think the final judgment is really good. Push a model up to 6 inches in any direction. Remove this model before this model is pushed. It may target a friendly model 2 inches. And yeah, so I mean, you can like double team up with people pretty nicely. Not sure if it's gonna combo with Collodi at all. I just like the model. I'll probably at least try it in some list. It's kind of like that replace the Kima thing. You just get a different type of thing with it. You can take Retsai. All right, so down to 4. We're getting to the list of models that are probably going to see play more often. So Doppelganger, everyone knows a Doppelganger. Everyone loves it. And I'm not going to say this is an auto take for me right now. Obviously, I don't play Neverborn, so a lot of Neverborn players might know better than I do. But I do play Trixie, and I will say that I do not use her cheat to go first as much. Now, a lot of it becomes because of the lists I play her in, like my summer list. It's not as necessary because I have so many little shit that I'm not in a position where it's like I need to go first or my big ass model is gonna die. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why. Um, here, like I said, she's 7 stones, 5 defense with 8 wounds is pretty. It's actually not. It's not hard to get through, but it's not easy either because she's been to 14, which is really obnoxious. Don't mind me is always good for some schemes. For dropping markers and that. cheat to go first, and then she can copy people's attacks. I always thought she did more. And what I mean by that is I thought she had more in the back of her card. Like, she really just copies. And then it's a 7 to gain one of those negative condition things, blend. But yeah, I really didn't know when I first started playing. And even now, like, I knew she copied shit, but I didn't know she didn't really do. Like, if she has nothing to copy, she's like pretty useless. She doesn't use a 7 to copy, and if you have the tome, you get to do it. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think she works with some of the models I plan on taking. Let me see, is any printed action that doesn't list the model by name? All right, so yeah, I'll definitely put her in. Um, I guess my point was she's not an auto for me. She is not a 100% of lists Doppel's going in. That's just all I mean. Will she be in lists? I'm sure, especially when you take things like Lazarus or something big that she has a really good copy. But in like the all minion list, can she copy masters? It's not master. Yeah, non-leader. So to me, in like the minion list, what are you copying that you need her for? I guess if you take Lilitu and you have the lure, perhaps. But that's my like against her in some of the lists I'm thinking of. It's like, why would I take her? For to go first, I guess, is the only thing. Because there's turns where if Collodi goes first, it's just lights out type deal. So she's one I want to test, obviously, and see how it goes. The copy's 8 inches. All right, that's pretty sweet. All right. So all right, 3 left. Iggy. So Iggy is one of my favorite enforcers. For Neverborn. Of course, as I said, I've never played him, but I love him anyway. He's 5 stones. All right, 6 defense, 6 wounds with bulletproof. I think bulletproof is really obnoxious for some crews. He doesn't die to snipers as well. You know, gremlins is kind of annoying if you can't get in on him. Smoldering heart, whatever, don't care. Martyr, don't care. So the back he has. I know he has a 0 upgrade. Iggy, where did I put your upgrade? All right, just so I can read it, just in case. Where is it? There it is. All right, so Iggy's upgrade. 5 melee, 2-inch range, 2, 3, 4, and he can move. After seeing move this, okay, it's just so he has like a melee. He has the melee now. So instead of a burning melee, he has a actual 2, 3, 4 melee with 2-inch range. Okay, so whatever. You give him the upgrade because it's free. I don't even know why did he really need this upgrade? Maybe not. So he has, a 12-inch gun that gives burning 1, and then it's burning 2 if you have because it has the built-in tome. So basically, you give burning 2 on a 6 to shoot, or it's melee against defense. And I don't know why. What? I guess if you don't want to give burning, then the attack is better. So yeah, that's cool. What's he walk? 5, so 17 inches to give burning 2. It could be fine. So I'm gonna skip the insight, but throw fit until the end of turn. Enemy models within 6, which I'm not yet activated this turn. Except for -2 willpower. Probably not useful for him, though it could be if you were somehow like get it off early and then be really close to enemy crew, and then Collodi just wrecks everything with his attack. And then he has a pulse 4, needs a 7, all models take 15 or gives burning 1. And then if you have if you have the 7 of rams, it's gonna be burning 2. I guess if you're in a group, it's nice. So why I like him is insight, right? So insight to me is an amazing ability. So to me, Iggy basically has 3 AP, because if insight was a 1 action, which I know why it's not, he would always be doing it probably multiple times if it was a 1 action. But to me, he is a scheme running insight bot. 5 stones, right? So fuck, like compared to like a Terratot, he walks 5, he puts down a scheme marker, and he tries to insight something. And the reason I like him like on a flank or something is you're usually going against other scheme runners. So he's probably not going to die that fast. And he can hold his own with his 2, 3, 4. And 2-inch melee is nice for scheme runners because usually they aren't that far, like a range. And you can give him burning 4 fairly easily. it is a gun, so there's cover. But I guess the point is, I just think insight is like, take doppelganger, right? You can cheat a card to go first, a high card or something, whatever, right? And that's kind of the problem with doppel. If you have a hand with one high card, but you need that high card to go first, then you kind of lose your guaranteed kill. And then if you cheat like an 8, you risk you not only lose the 8, but you risk them like stoning to and beating you. That's how I beat Jake in a tournament. He cheated an 8 instead of an 11, and then I just cheated because I just stoned it because I needed it, and I got a 10, and it's actually a pretty good chance to beat an 8. It's not that low, you know. And it's like, I think relying on it is the problem. Like, obviously, if it comes in, you have a 4 and a 6, and you cheat a 7, and then you're like, okay, if I go second, I go second. But the problem comes when you set up your turn before to go first, and either they flip a high card, and you don't have a card to beat it, or you have to cheat your 13. Then you realize, oh, I cheated 13. I don't have that card to make the hit I need to anymore, and then shit goes bad. Now, that's all what ifs, blah blah blah. But it could happen, but something like Insight, right? Depends on what you're against. I think Iggy's really good against Gremlins, for example, because Gremlins tend to take a lot of shit models, like little things. So if you're good enough, um, or if you play it well, you can not only go first, maybe with Doppel or just by flipping to go first, but you can force them to make their first activation like a stuffed piglet or a Bayou Gremlin, and all of a sudden with Accomplish, you're getting like 2 to 3 models, good models off before they even go. And if Collodi goes before, you know, half the Gremlin models go, you can steal like all their AP, whether you give them slow or make them obey, or, you take their first AP, and then you could just ruin everything they want to do. So that's why I like Iggy. 5 stones. Yeah, he can't be puppeted, but I don't think, like, Collodi's puppet thing doesn't, like, my will doesn't interest me that much. I'm not saying it's bad. There's situations where it's great, but you don't need like a million things to puppet all the time. Like, I've played against people who all they did was puppet their own models, and I just felt like it was worthless. It's like, when you have one of the best attack actions in the game, why are you puppeting a stitched, or, you know what I mean? Why are you puppeting something else? I feel like people don't take advantage of what they can do with Collodi. I know it's the middle of a video, but I think Neverborn, and I will give them this, is probably the hardest faction to play very well, like top level. And I think a lot of people who do well with Neverborn don't even play it that well. Um, I've faced very few Neverborn players that I thought played like super well. And when I say super well, I mean like, woo, where I'm just like, damn, I just got fucked up. Usually there's always something I see that I'm like, you could have done this better. Because they're fragile, they have a lot of tricks. Like, I mean, Kaladi's like whole attack action is tricks you can pull, but maybe it's hard to see. Maybe it's hard to see it. I think sometimes there's like chain events that it's hard for some people to see, and they go with like the obvious choice, and the obvious choices can still be very strong. It's just like those advanced techniques I don't see very much in Neverborn. I think they have a lot of ability to do it. They just don't. Nonetheless, I like Iggy. I want to try him. 5 stones, great like scheme running potential, and insight is just. I think insight's an amazing ability. And it's just one of those abilities that if you use correctly, really, really hurts somebody. Here, you don't know. Oh, this example will probably never come up, but just assume somebody had an iron skeeter or something, and you force them to use Frank. I know this is very actually never going to happen, but I'm going to say it anyway. You force them to use Frank before the iron skeeter. So you say activate Frank, and the iron skeeter hasn't gone yet, and they're like, oh, I can't actually pick up Frank because I hadn't, you know what I mean? So there you go. That's a pretty cute. If somebody has a combo that requires one model to go first, you just try to insight the other one, and then make the other one go first, and then it fucks up their combo because they can't do the double thing. Right? There we go with that. All right. Down to 2. We'll go to Lazarus. So why is Lazarus good? Um, so he's a pretty bare front card. It's basically can't be higher than guild and 2 armor. He's 4'6", 4'6", height 3, right? So and he's a construct, which is important. So he's 4 defense, but I think that's fine. He has a self heal. He has armor 2. So yeah, if you're against anti armor, it's annoying, but I don't think people think Neverborn and take like a ton of anti armor. Like it's not like holy shit, I need all the lightning bugs I can get. Uh, so it's still annoying. I mean, I think armor is one of those things that if you don't have like anti armor and you're against armor, it can be really. It's just annoying. I mean, that's the best way I could put it. It's just obnoxious because you're basically taking any min 3 model and making it min 1. So all the points they spend on that is useless. Um, he has a 2-3-4 in melee with. I mean, it's a 6 with. It's not great, obviously. His shooting's the good part. He shot 6, 3-3, 6 with blast. 12-inch range is a nice range for him. Why do you take him with Collodi? He has assimilate, which I'm gonna say I learned stupidly, but you don't copy Collodi's attack, which you can, and use it yourself. You copies Collodi's My Will and My Will Collodi, so Collodi gets a free AP with plus flips, and then it can declare triggers because he can't declare triggers. But when you My Will something, he's actually taking the My Will, which you can. Okay, so it makes sense. But assuming you take something like the no armor thing, which I think is really good on Lazarus, you can actually use Collodi's attack and have no armor, which is not bad because it's still 2-3-4 plus damage, no armor with no cover either. So you can do it both ways. He's probably good with Doppelganger too because she can copy his shot, and then you have two people that can do it. He has auto fire, which is 3 shots for the cost of 1. Nice thing about auto fire is it doesn't have to be against the same model. So if there's 3 models out in the open, you can shoot one after another. The one thing I like about him is one, Collodi can accomplice him, which creates an extremely strong first turn. If you like are in the thick of things and your first activation is 4 Collodis into Lazarus who copies Collodi, so it's 5 Collodi attacks plus an auto fire possibly. That's like 8 attacks before the enemy goes. Strong attacks. That could be game ending, in my opinion. One thing you can do with Collodi that's fun, if somebody has like a big beater or anything. Sorry, I'm stretching. Something you really want to kill, Collodi can go first, can actually do the crow trigger and make something walk out of cover into the open. And now when you auto fire it with Lazarus, it's sitting in the open. So that's one thing that's kind of interesting to do with Collodi is if something's hiding in cover and you're like, oh, Lazarus is going to be at negatives, I don't want to focus, blah blah blah. Just 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 hit the crow trigger and then walk it out into the open. And then when you accomplish Lazarus, he blows it up himself. Yeah, that's really it. Lazarus and Collodi it gives Collodi an extra AP. He's tanky. He has a nice shot. He kind of fits at that range that Collodi and him do well at. Collodi is a good buffer for him in that he can move things out of combat and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I think Lazarus is just a solid model with it, and it provides Doppel a nice shot as well. Mysterious Emissary is the last one I want to talk about. So, I've heard people who hate this model. I've heard people who really enjoy this model. Um, I am on the side of I really do want to try it. So, let's talk about it. All right, let's talk about the upgrade. I'm going to look at Collodi's upgrade first. So, it becomes a puppet. Automatically, it can do the fast. It can be, puppeted by Collodi and other things. So that's nice. When it gains focus or defensive, it gets +1 to it. And then if an effigy is summoned, it gains fast. All right, so that's like a bag of props thing, yeah, it's a reason to take the effigy. All right, so 6/6/10, hard to kill. It's surprisingly, I find emissaries actually some of the harder models to kill because of they have 6 stats, 6 defense, which is always nice. 10 wounds is sweet, and then hard to kill is always like a kick in the balls on top of it. especially when if you do take faded, this guy can get the burning, which can kind of not burning the other one, which can heal him up. But not only that, you eventually get the destined, which gives you +1 healing at the end of turn. The funny thing is just a general comment about effigies. I've played against a lot of effigies, and I've never seen someone do their destined thing. Maybe once, like the one where you score 2 and then you destine. I've almost never seen that. So this guy's is pretty good. Fast for all models and forcers within 4. So if you do take like the Lazarus minion list, everybody has fast for free instead of spending 2 wounds, which is it's fine. I've learned to that destined conditions are not like you don't base your whole strategy on that because it's either gonna die beforehand or you're winning the game type thing sometimes. So all right, hard to kill, unimpeded is always nice. It's ignore basically if you would take hazardous terrain, you heal 2 instead, and then you ignore hazardous terrain, which is nice because it's a heal if you do go fast, and you can make hazardous terrain, so it's kind of like a self heal in that sense. All right, so it has an attack. It's not a gun. It's cast 6 with a built-in trigger, and it's either range 1 or 6. It's 2/4/4, so it's not the highest damage track. Purge. After damaging, this is not the built-in one. You discard all enemy. After damaging an enemy, discard all scheme corpse and scrap markers within 4 of the target. Not bad. Has another trigger for take this action again. Oh, nice. Right. It's on a RAM. Not too many other things need RAM. So, auto do it again trigger is always nice. And then it has a built-in trigger to remove all conditions from the target after damaging. So, probably I can't think off the top of my head who this would be really good against, but the fact that you can remove conditions from models, actually, it's pretty. And you don't have to. Okay, you don't have to declare it. That's right. I was like, no, if Collodi slows everybody, but no, it's just nice if somebody gets fast or reactivate, and then you walk up and take it away with this guy. All right, he has a pretty good tactical actions. He has on a 7 of mass. He can summon a changeling in base contact with a friendly scheme marker and discard the marker. He suffers 2 damage. Obviously, suffering damage, you got to be careful because he eventually can kill himself doing this. But getting a 4-stone model for a 7 of mask and a scheme marker, if you have the card, you have the card. You know what I mean? It's pretty nice in that sense. On a 4 of crows, he can summon at 6-inch range. Place a 50mm hungry land marker within range and line of sight, not touching a model or marker. If there are more than 2 friendly hungry land markers in play, remove one of them. So you can only have 2 at a time, which is usually fine. Their height 0, severe, hazardous, which deal 1, 4, 5. See, that's the kicker in the balls right there. So you can't cheat flips, but 4 on a moderate is ridiculous. What is it? It's 1, 2, 4 now? Anyway, 1, 4, 5 is ridiculous. And the reason, so any model which ends a move or push within 3 inches of the hungry must pass TN 14 walk door or suffer damage as if entering it, which ends. Gotcha. And you can remove it by placing a blast over it. So I only played against this once, and it was fucking obnoxious because they put it right in front of my crew, and it's so hard to like walk through it. So I think it's great. Holy shit, I think it's awesome, and I think it's good with Collodi because you can walk them into it. So let's say your model activated, and I put a hungry landmarker next to it, and I walk them into it. Well, if you go into it, it's an auto check. It's not just the walk duel, which I can make you fail the walk duel myself. I believe it's tough. It's 14. I mean, it's a 9 for most models to pass it. And then when you activate in your next turn, you start in it. And so you're taking 2, 1, 4, 5 straight flips. That's like an average of 8 damage. With a lot of variance in it, though. It's probably more of an average of like 6 or so. I mean, because of the 1, 4, 5 thing. I mean, obviously, yeah. It's probably closer to 6 average given the 2, but it's just still like forcing you to walk into it, controlling space. It controls space so well, in my opinion. And it's only a 4 crows. I mean, yeah, you're not always gonna get it, but like I said, it's not that high of a card to go off. So I think the fact that he can summon changelings and has like he's solid all around. And he's a puppet, so he can go fast. Collodi, if you ever need to run up and like attack somebody, or walk charge, or walk shoot. I think there are plays to be made with him. he's definitely one I want to test. Definitely like really far up there. And with a lot of these models, I say I want to test them, and I do. My next step is really trying to fit them in a list and thinking, hey, when do I want to take them? Not only what strategy and scheme, but against what other factions. What factions have a lot of conditions that the mid-series MC would be good against? What faction is tough, sucks against armor, and something like Lazarus would be really good against? There's a lot of options like that to try to think about. Compared to Gremlins, and like I said, Gremlins have very internal balance struggle. A lot of times I'm not picking too much for the enemy faction, very little, because I just take all the good models and then kind of tend it towards the schemes I want to run. So, you know, yeah, that's kind of just the gist of it is. If you already have good stuff, there's a lot of options to be had here, I think. And that's the Enforcer one. And I'll be doing a minion one soon, which is also a longer one because there are a lot of minions. Thanks for listening.